Hey guys, it's Britt. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I wanted to talk about a little something, okay? It's day 4 of my micro needling. It's looking so good right now, you guys. But anyways, that's not the point of the video. I actually wanted to talk about something. It's gonna get demonetized, but I don't care. I'm not on YouTube for money or clout or anything. Like, I don't care. But I wanted to talk to you guys about sexual abuse. I was sexually abused as a child. I think it was around when I was like 12 and 13 that it happened. So how this all came about was when me and my brother were younger, my grandma actually helped raise us because my mom was in an institution at the time because she suffered from schizophrenia, so they had her committed to the U mental ward. And so it was around Christmas time. We had the bishop of the church actually come to our house and talk to my grandma about bringing us Christmas presents. So we didn't think anything of it. We thought it was so nice, that the church is willing to help us out. They were helping us out with food, clothing, whatever we needed. They even got me braces at one point, which was super cool. But yeah, so we started to become, me and my brother became very good friends with the bishop and his family, and we actually used to go on vacations with them. We used to spend every day at their house. They were literally like our adopted parents without being adopted. We still lived at our grandma's, but we would sleep over there all the time. And when I would sleep over there, their son had his own room and it was bunk beds. And I always slept on the top bunk bed. And one night I woke up to somebody groping me over the covers. So it's if these were the covers, you could feel somebody touching my private parts when I was sleeping. And I was immediately frozen in fear, you guys. It was so terrifying. I know when you hear these stories, you're like, well, if it was me, I would have done this. But in reality, I was so frozen in fear, I just laid there and I was petrified of what was going on. I didn't know how to react. I was only 12 years old. So it stopped for a minute and I was like, oh my God, what the fuck just happened? Because I could hear the person leave the room, walk out of the room. There was no door on the doorway. So when that person left, which I know who it was and I'll get to it, but when that person left, I rolled over so I was actually facing the wall, so my back was to the openness area of the room. That way I was like, okay, if they come back, at least my back is to them. They don't have a way to get to touch me again, if that makes sense. And so I was frozen in fear, laying on my side. I couldn't get back to bed, and I was just laying there. And all of a sudden, I hear somebody walk back in the room around to the top bunk again, and I feel them reaching over it. And now they're patting my side, right? Because they're okay. And they noticed that I had switched sleeping positions. So the person leaves again, and then they come back about 10 or 15 minutes later, and at the foot of the bed, I feel somebody messing with the covers at the foot of the bed, and all of a sudden, I see a flashlight turn on underneath the blankets, and I could feel somebody's hand kind of creeping up the blankets, trying to get to touch me again. And I was so terrified, you guys. I can't even believe this happened. But yeah, so I laid there with my back facing out and I was facing the wall, and I literally laid there until the sun came up. Once the sun came up, I was getting ready to leave, and one of the children that I used to play with all the time, she was like, "Hey, my dad wants to talk to you in the heirloom room. Just go talk to him before you leave." And I was like, "Okay, yeah." And at this point, I didn't know who it was that was doing that. I thought maybe it could have possibly been the son that was sleeping on the bunk bed underneath me. Because it was so dark and I was so terrified, I just laid there frozen in fear. And so I was getting ready to leave, and I kind of had a suspicion that it could be the dad, but I wasn't sure. The dad was a bishop of the Mormon church. And so I go in the heirloom room, which is where he makes his jewelry, because he was actually a mortician, and he would take the hair of the deceased and cover it in gold and create it into like a diamond ring for like a remembrance charm. And so I go in there, and he's like, "Hey, how did you sleep last night?" And immediately I was like, I slept fine. I was like triggered. Like I was again kind of like taken off guard and frozen. I froze up, and I didn't want to let him know that I knew. But yeah, so he's like, "Hey, I just wanted to ask you something." And I was like, "Yeah." And I was so terrified because of everything that had just happened that night. And he's like, "I just was wondering, has anyone ever like touched you or anything like that?" And I was like, "No, no, not at all. Why?" And I was just on the defensive, and I don't even have a reason why. It's just like, as a child, I didn't know how to react in that situation. And after that conversation, that's when I realized that it was the bishop that had actually done that to me. So after that, I never slept over there again. And I actually was so ashamed of what had happened. I actually wrote a note to my grandma and explained to her what had happened. And she ended up telling my aunt about what had happened. And my aunt was a severe alcoholic at the time. And she was always telling me and my brother that we were just like our mom. We were schizophrenic and crazy, which was not the case. And so when my family read the note of what had happened, they thought I was making it up. And they were like, "You're just like your mother." And so they totally disregarded everything that had happened to me and didn't believe me. And it's taken me a long time to be able to be comfortable with myself and everything that had happened to actually come out and talk to you guys about it. I mean, when you think your kids are safe with somebody because they are a bishop or a church leader or in a religious organization, it doesn't mean that they're safe. So, there are bad people everywhere in the world that you just can't trust. So, yeah, because of that happening to me as a kid, I feel like it really has made me hypersexualized as a young adult and an adult. And I feel like that's why I was so easy to get into escorting and selling my body for money. And I feel like that what has also triggered me to have a sex addiction, which I'm fine now. I don't struggle with any of that stuff. But because it did happen, I used to actually fantasize as a child about the predator that did this to me, which is so disgusting. I feel so ashamed just to say that, but I feel like it's very normal to have those feelings when you're a child and you've experienced sexual trauma and abuse from somebody. You just kind of feel like that's normal. So, yeah, that's my sexual abuse story, and I feel like it's important to share it with you guys. I'm not ashamed of what has happened. It is what it is. It's made me a much stronger person. I still deal with the repercussions of what I went through as a child, and yeah, I don't really know what else to say, but I wanted to be honest with you guys and share my story because I feel like if we're all quiet about these things and they just get brushed under the rug, things will never change in our society. And I actually had told my brother about what had happened, and he ended up getting the church involved years later. And when my grandma had passed away, um, we reached out to the bishop because he used to own a mortuary here in Utah, and or still does. And he told my brother, "You guys got me in a lot of trouble with the church." And it's like, so you're mad at us, which nothing even happened to him. No charges were ever filed. I don't know what the church got mad at him for. He shouldn't even be able to be around little kids, but yeah, it's so crazy, you guys. He was very mad at us for what had happened, and it's like, we were the ones that were assaulted by the predator, and the predator's getting mad at us for trying to tell authorities in the church what had happened, and nothing ever came of it, you guys. I did hear years ago that this person was no longer at the church that they used to attend. They've actually moved churches. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's what my brother had told me. But yeah, that is my sexual abuse story. I hope me sharing my story can actually help somebody watching. If you have suffered any kind of sexual abuse, there's counseling out there. If you're able to work through it on your own, that's great. But a lot of times it causes depression, like suicide. It causes you to become hypersexualized and become a sex addict. Like, it just is so unhealthy to go through that as a child. And I can tell you what, if anything ever happened with my nephew or niece, I would literally not even hesitate to go and whoop some ass. Like, that's not even something to joke about. Because I've gone through it, I wouldn't even hesitate to go, like, regulate. Okay, and I'm not like a violent person, but when it comes to my niece and nephew, I am the most protective aunt in the world, and if anything ever happened to them, you better watch out. But yeah, I think that's about it. I love you guys so much. I love that I can talk to you guys, tell you about my life, struggles I've gone through, things that I've overcome, and I just appreciate everyone that comments, sends me messages, hits me up on Instagram, everything. So thank you so much for your support, guys. It really means a lot. And make sure you like this video. If you ever need to talk, you guys can always message me. I will respond. But anyways, yeah, like my video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell. Anyways, until next time. Bye, guys.